My parents let my brother crash my car without consequence, so I bought my own, moved out, and blocked them all before they could say sorry. I'm a 24-year-old guy, and for as long as I can remember, my parents made it painfully clear that I was the background character in my own family. My younger brother, Ryan, was the golden child, the one who could crash and burn 1,000 times and still be handed a fresh start. Meanwhile, I was the responsible one, the guy they could count on when bills needed paying or chores piled up. I was the one who never caused problems. You'd think that would make them proud, right? Nope. It just made me invisible. Growing up, Ryan got everything without ever earning it. He'd fail classes. My parents would blame bad teachers. He'd scream at my mom and she'd cry about how he was just passionate. I'd try to step in, but that only made me the villain. "Stop provoking him, Tyler," Dad would bark. "You know how sensitive he is." Sensitive, that was their favorite excuse. Sensitive, misunderstood, stressed, tired, unlucky. Pick your word. The world bent around Ryan's comfort. By the time I hit my 20s, I had one goal: get my own car. Not just because I needed it for work, but because it felt like mine. Something untouched by Ryan's chaos. I worked 2 jobs for almost a year, skipping nights out, skipping takeout, even skipping sleep. And when I finally stood at that used car lot, staring at a little silver Honda Civic with 80,000 miles, I swear I could have cried. It wasn't fancy, but it was freedom. 4 wheels and a key that belonged to me. When I brought it home, my parents barely looked up from the couch. Ryan smirked and said, "Cute, don't scratch it." I laughed it off at first, but something in his tone made me uneasy. I didn't realize it then, but that car was about to become the battlefield for everything I'd swallowed my entire life. That car became more than transportation. It was my sanctuary. I'd sit in it after long shifts, engine off, music low, just breathing. For once, I had something that wasn't shared, borrowed, or criticized. I washed it every weekend, checked the oil religiously, and parked it far from Ryan's friends who treated everything like their personal playground. It wasn't about vanity. It was about peace, something I never had growing up in a house where yelling was background noise. But peace doesn't last long in a family that feeds on guilt. Ryan started asking to borrow my car a few days after I brought it home. The first time, it sounded innocent enough. Just a quick drive to meet a friend. I said no, politely. His smirk faltered. "Dude, it's just a car." "Yeah," I told him. "My car." That was the start of it. The quiet shift. The uncomfortable glances at dinner. My mom started bringing it up subtly. "Tyler, don't be so possessive. Ryan's your brother. You can trust him." And when I refused again, she sighed and muttered, "You've changed. Ever since you bought that thing, it's like you think you're better than us." Every conversation after that turned into emotional landmines. My dad stayed out of it, but his silence was worse than yelling, the kind of silence that said, "I agree with her." Ryan, of course, played the victim. "Man, I just wanted to borrow it for a night. You act like I'm gonna steal it." He laughed, but I could hear the bitterness under it. That night, I locked my car before bed and checked twice. It sounds paranoid, I know, but something in Ryan's eyes unsettled me. It wasn't jealousy, it was entitlement. Like he was already planning when, not if, he'd take it. I just didn't know how soon that when would come. A few weeks later, it happened. The night, everything changed. It was a normal Tuesday. I'd just finished a long double shift, dragging myself home with fast food in one hand and my mind set on collapsing into bed. But when I pulled into the driveway, something felt wrong. The empty driveway, the quiet, the space where my car should have been. At first, I thought I was losing it. I checked the street, the garage, even texted my mom. Me. "Hey, where's my car?" Mom. "Ryan just took it to the store. Don't freak out. Don't freak out." My chest tightened. That was my car. My insurance. My savings. My everything. I called Ryan. No answer. Called again. Straight to voicemail. Each minute stretched longer than the last. I paced the living room, waiting, hoping to hear the familiar rumble of the engine. But hours passed. Then headlights flashed through the window. It wasn't Ryan. It was a tow truck. My car was strapped to it, front end crushed like paper. My heart dropped. I ran outside, barefoot, shouting, "What the hell happened?" The driver looked at me, eyes wide, clearly uncomfortable. Some guy wrapped it around a mailbox. Said it was his car. And there was Ryan, sitting in the passenger seat of Mom's car, looking annoyed, not scared. He had a scratch on his forehead and a soda in his hand. My mom rushed over before I could say anything. "Tyler, please don't yell at him. He's been through enough." Through enough? I was standing there staring at the twisted metal that used to be my freedom, and they were comforting him. I couldn't even find words, just this numb, pulsing rage that felt too big for my chest. That night, something inside me cracked for good. I barely slept that night. I just sat there staring out my window at the wreck in our driveway. The front bumper hung loose, one headlight shattered, hood bent like it had been folded in half. My car, my only real accomplishment, was gone. All the hours I worked, all the nights I came home too tired to eat, gone because Ryan wanted to go to the store. The next morning, I tried to stay calm. I asked him what happened. He shrugged. "Mailbox came out of nowhere. Were you speeding?" He laughed. "Doesn't matter, bro. It's just a car. Just a car." That line echoed in my head like a taunt. I turned to my parents, expecting, hoping for backup. But instead, Mom said, "Ryan already feels bad enough. You need to let it go." Let it go. He stole my car, crashed it, and— "Don't use that word," Dad interrupted. "He's your brother, not a thief." It was like talking to a wall made of gaslight. Every sentence I spoke got flipped back on me. They told me I was being dramatic, that family matters more than money. But this wasn't about money. It was about respect, about the years I spent proving I was responsible while Ryan coasted on excuses. And now, the one thing I earned on my own was destroyed, and somehow I was the selfish one. Later that week, I found out the worst part. My insurance hadn't fully kicked in yet. I was 2 days away from the final activation. So not only did I lose the car, I was stuck paying the repair bill for damage I didn't cause. When I told my parents, Mom just sighed. "See, that's why you shouldn't be so attached to material things." That's when I realized they weren't going to fix it, apologize, or even acknowledge the betrayal. They didn't see a problem at all. The days after the crash felt like living in a twisted alternate reality. I thought there'd be guilt, maybe even remorse. Instead, it was like everyone quietly agreed that what happened wasn't a big deal. And somehow, I was the one overreacting. At breakfast, Mom would talk to Ryan in this soft, careful tone like he'd survived a tragedy. She'd bring him extra coffee, ask if he was sleeping okay, tell him accidents happen. Meanwhile, I'd walk in and the air would freeze. One time I said, "He didn't just have an accident, he took my car without asking." Mom's spoon clattered on the table. "Tyler, please. You're being cruel." "Cruel? He totaled my car. He's traumatized enough," she snapped. "Why are you trying to make him feel worse?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was like they were rewriting reality right in front of me. Then I overheard Mom on the phone with my aunt saying, "Tyler's been acting ungrateful. He's obsessed with that stupid car. Ungrateful, obsessive, dramatic." Those words became their new labels for me. Dad barely spoke to me except to say, "You need to move on." And Ryan, he strutted around like nothing happened. He even joked about it once. "Hey, at least I didn't die, right?" I stared at him, speechless, wondering if he even felt anything. Every night I went to bed replaying the same thoughts. Maybe I am overreacting. Maybe I'm making it worse. That's what years of gaslighting does. It makes you question your own pain. Then one night, as I lay awake, I heard Ryan laughing on the phone in the next room. He was telling someone, "Yeah, I crashed it. My parents totally covered for me." That's when I realized they weren't protecting him because he was sorry. They were protecting him because deep down, they knew exactly what he was, and couldn't face it. A few nights later, I came home from a late shift, still tense from pretending everything was fine. The house was dark except for a faint glow spilling from Ryan's room. I was about to walk past when I heard his voice, loud, slurred, and laughing. He was on the phone. I froze when I caught the words. Bro, I was so drunk that night, man. I don't even remember turning the wheel. A pause. Then laughter. Nah, they didn't even care. Mom said she'd tell insurance it was Tyler's fault or some crap. They totally covered me. My stomach dropped. My legs went cold. I pressed my back against the wall, heart hammering. He wasn't just reckless, he was drunk. Drunk when he crashed my car. And my parents didn't just know. They helped him cover it up. I wanted to burst in and scream, but something stopped me. That strange calm you get right before anger turns into something sharper. I quietly recorded a snippet on my phone. Proof. Something real. Because in that house, truth only existed when you could prove it. The next morning, I sat my parents down in the living room. He was drunk, I said, holding up my phone. He admitted it. Mom's face went pale, but she recovered fast. Tyler, this is ridiculous. He's just saying things to sound tough. Dad crossed his arms. You're spying on your brother now? Jesus, what's wrong with you? That was the moment it clicked. They didn't want the truth. They wanted control. The golden boy could drive drunk, lie, and destroy everything I worked for, and still they'd twist it to make me the problem. I looked at them, at the people who were supposed to protect me, and for the first time in my life I didn't feel like their son. I felt like a stranger in their house. After that morning, something inside me just shut off. I stopped trying to explain. I stopped defending myself. I realized that logic didn't work in that house. Only guilt and denial did. So instead of fighting, I went quiet. That silence scared them more than my anger ever did. At dinner, when Mom tried to talk, I'd just nod. When Dad barked something about respecting your family, I'd excuse myself. Ryan kept up his usual act, making little digs about how touchy I was, but I didn't react. I was done giving them reactions. Every night after work, I'd sit in my room scrolling through apartment listings, checking my savings, calculating what I could afford. Leaving wasn't just about space. It was about survival. That house was suffocating me. Every wall felt like it whispered the same thing. You don't matter here. Still, guilt clung to me like smoke. Mom would knock on my door sometimes and say, I hate seeing you so distant, Tyler. We're family, remember? And I'd force myself not to answer, because I knew what came next. The manipulation, the tears, the twisting of words until I'd end up apologizing for their mistakes. One night, I came home late and found Mom crying at the kitchen table. You're breaking this family apart, she said quietly. I wanted to tell her they broke it long before I ever fought back. But instead, I just said, maybe it needed to break. 2 days later, I signed a lease for a tiny one-bedroom apartment across town. It wasn't much, creaky floors, cheap rent, a flickering light in the hallway, but it was mine. As I slid the pen across the paper, my hand trembled, but not from fear. For the first time in years, it was from relief. Moving day was supposed to feel freeing. I had packed my boxes, loaded the essentials into a friend's truck, and told myself I wouldn't look back. But the universe doesn't let toxic people go quietly. And neither did my family. When I came downstairs with the last box, Mom was waiting by the door, eyes red and wet. So that's it? She asked. You're just leaving? I kept my voice calm. Yeah, I need space, Mom. Space? Her tone sharpened. After everything we've done for you, you're abandoning us because of a car? Dad appeared behind her, arms crossed, voice booming. You think you're better than us now, huh? You think you can just walk away from family? I'm not walking away from family, I said quietly. I'm walking away from being treated like trash. That was it, the line that cracked the fragile peace. Mom burst into tears, wailing, You're heartless. You've changed. She clung to my arm like I was betraying her personally. Ryan sauntered in, grinning. Don't forget to visit your precious car in the junkyard, he said. Something inside me snapped. Years of silence, gaslighting, and guilt came pouring out. You think this is about a damn car? I shouted. This is about you stealing everything I worked for. My peace, my trust, my respect. You've spent my whole life defending him while tearing me down, and now you wonder why I'm done. The room went still. For a second, nobody moved. Then Dad sneered. Ungrateful brat. I looked at them, at my crying mother, my angry father, my smirking brother, and realized they didn't see me as a person, just a role, the scapegoat, the problem. So I picked up my last box, walked out the door, and didn't turn around. The tears came later, not because I left them, but because I finally admitted they were never really mine to begin with. The first night alone in my apartment was quiet. Too quiet. No arguing in the next room, no guilt-tripping sighs, no Ryan blasting music and laughing like he owned the world. Just silence. And at first, that silence felt wrong. I lay on the floor surrounded by unpacked boxes, eating cold noodles from a takeout container, wondering if I'd made a mistake. Because that's what happens when you've been manipulated for years. Freedom doesn't feel peaceful. It feels empty. Days turned into weeks, and the emptiness started to fade. I built small routines: morning coffee by the window, late-night drives in my friend's old car, reading books I never had time for. The noise in my head, their voices, the guilt, started to quiet down. I was still struggling financially. Between rent and repairs, I barely had anything left in savings. But every time I locked my own door, I felt something money couldn't buy. Control. Nobody could tell me what to do or twist my words to make me the bad guy. Sometimes, I'd catch myself scrolling through old photos, seeing my mom smiling at family dinners, Ryan flashing peace signs like a rock star, Dad looking proud. And for a split second, I'd think, maybe it wasn't that bad. But then I'd remember the night they defended him over me. The night they chose lies over truth. That reminder kept me grounded. I started going to therapy, something my parents would have mocked as dramatic. I began learning about gaslighting, scapegoating, and narcissistic family systems. Every article felt like a mirror. I wasn't broken. I'd been trained to believe I was. It wasn't a happy ending yet, but for the first time, I felt something close to hope. I didn't need them to change anymore. I just needed to keep going. It took me 6 months to rebuild what Ryan destroyed in one reckless night. 6 months of saving every spare dollar, skipping nights out, walking to work in the rain. But this time, it felt different. I wasn't grinding for approval or validation. I was building my life, brick by brick, mile by mile. Then, one Saturday morning, I stood at a dealership staring at a dark blue Toyota Corolla. Clean, reliable, nothing fancy. But the moment I saw it, I felt that same surge of pride I'd felt the day I bought my first car. The salesman asked if I wanted to think it over. I shook my head. "No," I said. "I've been thinking about this for years." Signing those papers felt like closing a chapter. Every pen stroke was a quiet rebellion. Proof that I could rise from the mess they left me in. When I slid the key into the ignition and the engine purred to life, I just sat there for a second, hands trembling, eyes burning. Freedom, real freedom, didn't roar. It hummed softly, steady and sure. Driving away, I passed a few old neighborhoods, the kind where I used to dream about escape. I thought about Ryan, probably still coasting through life, making excuses. I thought about my parents, still blaming everyone but themselves. And for once, none of it hurt. It just didn't matter anymore. Later that day, my phone buzzed. Mom, missed call. Then another. Then a text. Please call us. We want to talk. I stared at the screen for a long time. My heart didn't race this time. It stayed calm. I set the phone down, rolled down the window, and let the wind fill the silence. That car wasn't just a vehicle. It was a promise. That I'd never let anyone drive my life again. It had been almost 8 months since I left when I heard the knock. A soft, hesitant tap, tap, tap that immediately set my nerves on edge. I opened the door, and there they were. Mom, Dad, and Ryan. Standing in the hallway like ghosts I never wanted to see again. Mom smiled first, that practice kind of smile that never reached her eyes. "Hi, honey," she said, her voice trembling just enough to sound rehearsed. "We've missed you." I didn't invite them in, but she walked past me anyway, her perfume flooding the small apartment. Dad followed, looking around like he was inspecting something he disapproved of. Ryan leaned against the wall, hands in pockets, grinning like he owned the place. "So," Dad started, We've all had time to cool down. Let's move forward, huh? Mom nodded eagerly. We just want to make things right. For a second, a small, naive part of me wanted to believe it. Maybe they finally saw how wrong they'd been. But then Mom dropped the real reason they came. Ryan's been looking for a car, she said carefully, eyes flicking to me, and we thought maybe you could help with a small loan. Just until he gets back on his feet, I almost laughed. After everything. Everything. They were here not to apologize, but to ask for money for him. I leaned back in my chair, letting the silence hang heavy. You know what's funny? I said quietly. You didn't come here to make things right. You came because you ran out of ways to bail him out yourselves. Mom frowned. Tyler, don't be cruel. Cruel. I smiled. You taught me to handle my own messes. Remember? Ryan muttered something under his breath, but I didn't care. I stood up, walked to the door, and opened it wide. You can go now, I said. For the first time, I wasn't angry. I was free. And they couldn't stand it. That night, after they left, I sat in the dark with the sound of their voices still echoing faintly in my head. Not in anger this time, just disbelief. For so long, I had begged for understanding, for a real apology, for them to see what they'd done. And when they finally showed up, all they proved was that nothing had changed, but something had changed. Me. The next morning, I woke up feeling lighter than I had in years. I made coffee, opened my window, and looked out at the sunrise washing the city in gold. The air felt clean, quiet, uncomplicated. I picked up my phone, scrolled through the contact list, and paused on the 3 names that had once defined my entire life. Mom, Dad, Ryan. One by one, I blocked them. No angry message, no dramatic send-off, just a quiet click and a deep breath. It wasn't revenge. It was peace. Later that afternoon, I grabbed my keys and took my new car out for a drive. The streets blurred past, the wind rushing through the open window. Every mile felt like a page turning, every green light like the universe whispering go. I thought about that night. The crash, the lies, the manipulation, and realized I wasn't running anymore. I was free because I chose myself. As I pulled up to a red light, I caught my reflection in the rearview mirror. Tired eyes, a small scar of grief, but a faint smile, too. For once, I liked the person staring back at me. I whispered, almost to myself, sometimes you have to crash to realize you were never the one driving. And when the light turned green, I pressed the gas, not to escape the past, but to finally move forward.